Marty's garden is all about compost worms, composting, farming worms indoors and out, and growing some of the most awesome food around. You can learn how by clicking the subscribe button and hitting the bell so you don't miss any of my videos.
Welcome to the Marty's Garden Show.
G'day friends, Marty Ware here, your friendly agricultural horticulturist from Australia, from martysgarden.com.au. How you going today? And welcome to another video. We've got a subscriber question. Actually, it's from my community inside my worm farming course, Starting a Worm Farmer Beginner's Guide. It was posted on the social wall. And it says, what's up with manures in worm farms? So, what's the problem with manures in worm farms? Well, first, what we're going to do is I'm going to talk about the bad things about manures in worm farms, and then, secondly, we'll cover the good and different types of manures and things in worm farms at the same time. So let me put this down here. No need for that anymore. Right, so let's get into the bad thing. Firstly, certain manures may have like worm medicines in them where they've been feeding the animals to deworm them, and if it hasn't removed out of the manure yet and the worms eat it, it will kill the worms, and that is actually a fact. So I was told by a long-term worm farmer friend of mine to let it sit. Actually, he was my mentor at the beginning about a decade ago, to let it sit for about 6 months. That's what they did, and their major bedding on their worm farm, and we're talking a big farm, was cow manure, and it sat in a really big pile over in the corner underneath this cover sort of thing, and they used that over and over and over again because cow manure produces another type of microbe through the gut of the worm. So anyway, that is one of the problems. The second problem is it can be too fresh, which could mean it could be too acidic. Certain manures such as chicken manure, which is highly acidic, and when it's very fresh, it can make your worm farm get hot if you put too much in. And if it's very fresh, the worms really won't go for it until the bacteria starts breaking it down anyway. So it's best to add old chicken manure. Now, I used to have chickens, and I used to get the chicken manure out of the pen, and I'd let it sit for a while. I'd get the old stuff out from where they've been sitting overnight, and then I would feed just a little bit, like as you'd break it off, there'd be a cracked layer sort of thing, and it'd be like a cake, you know, and I'd put it on top of the worm farm, and they would come up and just devour it within about 3 or 4 days because the bacteria is already set on top of it, and it's already starting to decompose, so the worms love it. But I always made sure not to overdo it because there is still a lot of nitrogen even in the old chicken manure, and it can make worm farms hot. Now, in the wintertime, it may warm things up a little bit. So it's about trial and error and stuff like that. Cow manure, chicken manure, we've got things like rabbit manure. Again, let it dry out. It's mostly just grass. It's not too bad. The cow's probably a bit better because it's got to pass through 2 guts. It's got more beneficial microbes and things actually in the cow manure. Then we're talking horse manure. Horse manure is rampant full of worms, especially if it's coming off a race course or something like that where they're keeping the horses for racing. Be really, really careful with horse manure. Let it sit for quite a long time. I've heard some really bad stories about people farming, putting it out on their veggie gardens and having all these worms in there, and then bang, all their worms gone, which is really, really sad, right? So just be careful with that. Basically, any manure is good as long as it's not acidic and it's aged a bit, and you can start putting it in. If you're not sure, just put in a little bit at first and just sort of like work your way up into a level where you feel very comfortable when you've used it quite a few times. Because remember, they'll eat mostly anything that's organic. So what we're doing by adding manures is we're actually making our worm castings more fertile. So that's the good part of it, right? As we're feeding things such as cow manure, which has great microbiology through it. That's why they use it in biodynamics and things like that, and that's why I use it in my system for bioorganics. And look, that is just, it's just the bomb. And it's like whatever you've been feeding that animal. So I used to feed my own chickens really like microgreens. I used to grow them like all different types of grasses and things like that, and legumes, and sprout the seed and stuff for them. And so they were a high powered chicken egg and a very, very high quality manure. And that's what helped me grow really awesome microgreens and baby leaf for my restaurant trade that I used to sell and grow for. So that's pretty much it, guys. If you throw in a handful of lime or something, a bit of dolomite or something with it, a bit of eggshell or something to make sure you get that lime thing going on, and break it down, any acidity as well, then that's going to really help. So there are good points and bad points to using cow manure and different manures. You just need to weigh up the ones that I've told you about. Alright, so if you want to learn more about worm farming, head over and check out my worm farming video crash course. It's available now at martysgarden.com.au. You'll see it in the tab there. It's a pretty good course, about 4 videos or something in there. It's, yeah, awesome. It's free. Alright, see you there. Have a great day. Happy gardening. We'll see you at the next video real soon. Bye for now.